He might actually be the most derivative one of all. I mean, Christ, the same house.
Maybe so, but you forgot the first rule of surviving a stab movie. Never answer the...
I'm bored.
Wait!
And welcome back to Micro Queers. It's that thing where we talk about horror shorts and also sometimes do short queer horror reviews. I'm Joe.
I'm Trace, and yes, we are here to bring you a mini review of a new queer horror film that's out now. So we are here to talk about Huesera, the Bone Woman today.
Yeah, so this is directed by Michelle Garza Cervera and co-written by Huesera as well as Abia Castillo. And Trace, this one has been doing the festival rounds for a while, and I'd heard of it but hadn't seen it, and I'm curious what you think.
I like this. I confess, I felt a little stupid because, yeah, when I got this press release, I was like, I've never heard of this before. And I was shocked to see, yeah, it's been doing the festival round since last summer and getting a pretty phenomenal reception. I mean, we're looking at a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes as of this recording.
I'll admit I'm not surprised by the positivity because when I watched it, well, I wasn't entirely blown away by it. It's really well made. It's really well acted. There's a couple of moments in here that are really effective. There was one jump scare that 100% fucking got me. And I think it builds in intensity to a pretty solid climax. I think the biggest critique that I have is just in parts it's a little bit slow.
I agree. And I didn't read full reviews before walking into this, but I did kind of skim some of the blurbs. And yeah, it seems that the pacing is a thing. Also, people clarifying this isn't like it is a horror movie, but it's more focused on the psychological aspects than it is like the scares. Although, as you said, I found some of this very, very creepy. I mean, like I'm a sucker for framing. So there's one shot of like an overhead of like the stairwell as she's walking downstairs, but then you see the creature crawl into the bedroom.
Ooh, it's so good.
It's really good.
Yeah, so folks, this has been compared to films like The Babadook because it's tackling real life situations. In this case, it's postpartum, and it's doing it with a psychological / horrific bent, in which case that would be the Huesera, which is It's interesting the way that the film does and doesn't clarify what it is. Like, I went to look it up to see if there was a definition that we could use to help people understand it. It's folklore, but it seems to be like women who get pregnant but then have a difficult pregnancy or don't connect with their babies all that well.
So I've got one. So I'm actually pulling this from Megan Navarro's review on Bloody Disgusting, but
okay.
It says, La Huesera, the Bone Woman, is a Mexican folktale of an older woman who wanders the desert and collects bones, often of wolves. Once she obtains all the animal's bones, she sings by the fire and brings the animal back to life. The legend often tells of revived wolves transforming into women, running free into the wild.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely saw one referencing like wolves, and I wasn't really sure how it impacted this film because we don't have wolf imagery here.
Not at all. It's very much bone imagery, and good lord, the sound on these bones is prevalent throughout the entire runtime.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, if you have not seen this film, Trace and I would both recommend that you do so. And it tells the story of Valeria, who is this middle to upper class woman. She's living in Mexico City. She has, it says husband on the Wikipedia page named Raul, and they've been trying to get pregnant for a little while. And when they're finally successful, everyone that she knows is like, Valeria, sweetie, you're the least maternal person we know. Are you sure this is a good fit?
Oh my God. Like, they're just what every new mother wants to hear, or expecting mother wants to hear, right? But Valeria also has a bit of a history and some repressed issues that she's dealing with, which of course is tying into the psychology of the creature. And while I did like this film, I feel the same way about this as I did about Hypochondriac last year, where it's like, okay, I like that we're doing a lot of this stuff, and it is queer, but it's still that whole, like, oh, our lead character may or may not be crazy, and no one believes her because she's seeing things. They think it's hallucinations because of whatever, in Hypochondriac's case, bipolar disorder, in this case, pregnancy and postpartum.
Right. I think that this one is a little bit more cut and dry because in our minds, there's never any uncertainty that what Valeria is experiencing is at least very real to her. Mm-hmm. So even though everyone in her life is telling her, why do you keep talking about intruders coming into the house or seeing a woman across the stairwell die by suicide, seemingly? Mm-hmm. Even though everyone else seems to be doubting her because we're so closely aligned with her, I was like, yeah, no, I'm along for the ride.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it should be noted that Natalia Solián, who plays Valeria, is a powerhouse in this role. So much of this movie is relying on her, and she is in distress pretty much once we hit the 15-minute mark of this movie all the way to the end.
Yeah, and this is her feature debut. It's also director Michelle Garza Cervera's directorial feature debut. So it's like newbies across the board, and they're killing it.
God, I mean, that's the thing, too. I mean, from a technical standpoint, I think this film is on point. You mentioned this to me before we started recording, but yeah, the Foley work in this film is astounding. And as I said, the framing in so many of these set pieces is great for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because basically we follow Valeria as she goes through her pregnancy. It's not an easy pregnancy. She loses weight before she gains it, and her doctor says that she might be anemic. She isn't sleeping well. She's lost a lot of her appetite. So she's basically having a very rough go of it, in addition to dealing with completely unsupportive family members. So Raul is very much on her side, but she basically gets told by everybody, oh, this is such a weird fit for you, which is not what you want when you're, looking to solidify your foundation as you prepare to radically change your life. Because Trey, she basically gives up everything for this child.
Yes, she does. But she honestly seems like she gave up a lot for a heteronormative marriage.
Yeah, I'll confess, when I was looking for insight just to see how other people responded to the film, and the number of reviews that don't even touch on the queerness, so we do get flashbacks to Valeria when she's a younger punk rock teen, and she's got a very close friend, and I'm using friends incredibly sarcastically because she is in love with Octavia. She and Octavia are sneaking off for kisses and cigs, and when things go badly for Valeria in her adult life, the person she turns to is not Raul, it is adult Octavia. And they're fucking, which really confused me in all these reviews where I'm like, why are we using the word friend? Why are we not saying lesbian or bisexual?
Well,
very confused.
I wonder if it's because that happens about 40 minutes into the movie when we get the flashback to their teenage years. And so I wonder if that was delving too far into spoiler territory, right? To where we're like, oh, we don't want to mention that because it's not really, I guess it is kind of revealed that, she has a female lover out there that she was with and abandoned as a teenager because she was trying to stick with her family and go by tradition.
Right.
And so, I just wonder, I mean, I get it because I think that's important to know about this movie. But again, it is kind of a midway reveal.
Right. You know what? You are being very generous, and I applaud you for that. I guess from my perspective, when I was looking at the film, and I even read in interviews with Garza Cervera, they were very much setting out to use the film to tackle non-traditional families. Like, basically, what does it cost you to have this quote-unquote perfect life where you've got the husband, you've got the fancy condo in downtown Mexico City, and now you've got a baby. And the reality is that for Valeria, this is fantasy. Like, even her family calls her on it. They say, you traded up and you kind of left us behind. Like, you never come home, you never babysit, you're not really a great member of this family. And I think part of this is because Valeria felt like she couldn't be true to who she really is, which is a queer woman who more or less traded up and compromised on who she really is.
But yet this life that she has is still smothering her, as we will see that it literally smothers her in the climax of this film.
Yeah, I feel like you want to talk about some of these set pieces because they are pretty good. So why don't we talk about the suicide that she witnesses? Because that's sort of the first big one where you're like, wait, what?
Well, I guess, yeah, it's stunning because we see the person, and I say person in quotes because it's very much a faceless figure of the La Huesera. But her reaction's fantastic. But then, yeah, we get this shot of the body crumpled on the ground as it just starts twitching.
Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of things like Ju-on, where we're seeing like it's almost like contortion-y and lots of neck twists. And then, as you said, that Foley work is incredible. Like the bone sounds are so all-encompassing in this movie. And it's really great because Valeria herself has a tendency to fall back on cracking her knuckles when she gets tense or anxious. So it really associates her with the bone woman who is plaguing her.
Well, and I'm sorry, I know we're talking about the set pieces, but even just pulling back a bit, like what I like about what is on the surface like a typical haunting film, I guess, or maybe even partially a possession film, maybe, but like attachment from last time, like we were learning about Jewish culture, and it's kind of like throwing a Jewish twist on the possession film. Right. I like that we then have this Mexican twist, because again, I'm not super familiar with Mexican culture and folklore, and so this is all new to me, and I find all of it fascinating. So I love, at the very least, that we're getting all of these horror films from different cultures that are making their way to the States that are like deviating from the norm, from these normal horror tropes.
Yeah. And I think that's where your example of Hypochondriac is a good example, because that's from a North American perspective, because it was set in, I want to say Los Angeles, if I remember correctly. But that was through like a Hispanic perspective, right? Because our main character...
Right, but it's I guess it is kind of steeped in the but compared to Huesera, like this is steeped in Mexican culture.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I really liked is that there is one family member on Valeria's side, and that is her lesbian aunt, who is described as a spinster, which I loved.
Oh, the whole time I was like, she a lesbian, come on.
And it's so cute when she sees her with her girlfriend at some kind of street fair market kind of thing. And you're just like, look at them, they're adorable. Valeria, this is what you could have with Octavia.
But that's the thing, though, right? Because is it clear that her family knows she's a lesbian, or is it's like, oh, that's the secret? Like, yeah, she is that way, but we don't talk about that because again, queerness isn't exactly held in high esteem in Mexican culture.
No. But one thing that the aunt does provide her is this connection to an exorcist. And I love that this is not an exorcism in the way that we would expect from like a Conjuring universe or the actual film The Exorcist.
It's a brujeria, witch doctor.
Yeah. And even that, though, I find it was almost understated. Like, I was convinced we were going to get something with, like, tons of spinning camera work and blah, 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 blah. And instead, it's almost like a low-key exorcism where it's like, okay, we're just going to put you through a little bit of this ritual. We're going to get you to stand in the circle. And then the visual imagery of what Valeria sees is upsetting. But even that, it's not, like, super done up with special effects and that kind of stuff.
Well, what I liked about this is so much of what we see in exorcism scenes, it's all external, right? We see what is going on outside where we don't get to be in the headspace of the actual possession. The exorcist, we're not in Reagan's head seeing what she's seeing. We are with the priest the whole time. Huesera takes the opposite approach, and we go into Valeria's head with her, and we are in the fight with her, not the brujerias that are helping her do this.
Yeah, and to set the scene, it's like she's basically lost in this kind of Mortal Kombat forest with like different kinds of pathways, and she starts to see creepy contortionist figures, but like they're all naked, they've got broken bones and different wounds on them, they're still faceless, but like you can tell that they're a kind of a mix of genders, but they move almost as one, even though they're separate bodies, and they envelop her to create almost this mountain of flesh.
Yes, and I will say that the image of this is on one of the posters for this film.
Yeah, which I got really mad at. I was like, do not spoil your fucking finale on the poster.
So unfortunately, if y'all watch this, you're like, oh, damn, that's what it is. But she comes out of it okay.
Well,
ish. I mean, she comes out of it with clarity, I think.
Yeah, before we talk about the ending, because I think you and I were like, yeah, it's okay. And then we got to the ending and we were both really surprised at what happens. I do want to talk about the scene that to me is the strongest in the film.
Oh.
So Valeria has been having difficulty sleeping even after she delivers the baby.
Oh, yeah.
And she lays down in bed and she's got the baby monitor on the bedside table. And the baby will not stop crying, even though she's trying to sleep. And then we see her get up, and then we just hold on the baby monitor, and we see her pick up the baby on the monitor, and then she disappears out of frame, and we hold, and the baby stops crying. And then Valeria comes back to bed, and she falls asleep, and we can tell that time has passed. And then Raul calls her and she's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're coming home. Everything's fine, blah, blah, blah.
And she's like, wait, where's the baby?
Where's the baby? So she goes to this crib. Baby's not there. She looks around the house. Baby is not there. Trace, I fucking thought we were going to do a dead baby here.
I thought so too. And, we don't quite get that, but the reveal of the tension in this, because movies don't kill babies, and movies don't have mothers not want their babies, at least by the end of the film. And so, where is this baby, Joe?
The baby is in the fucking fridge. It is still alive, which I was like, okay. But, the baby is alive, but it was in the fridge that whole time. And it is like the wave of emotions I had. You and I are very publicly on record that we don't have an interest in having children ourselves. Yep. We don't hate kids.
I don't want all kids to die.
we don't want them to die unless the movie is trying to say something about stakes. And it's like, I really thought that this could have gone either way. And I was happy that she didn't, because the film would have taken a very different path if she had have inadvertently murdered her child here.
But it's still very upsetting. And I would love to also hear what our parent viewers thought of this scene specifically. Because I would also imagine it probably, not that you've actually put your baby in a fridge, but like, you have an irresponsible moment where you're like, wait, fuck, where's the baby?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And that to me is why this film does work as well as it does, because if you want to look at it as this is magical postpartum, it's there. If you want to look at it as she's being plagued or possessed by this creature, it's also there. But I think just the way that parents respond when they have newborns, it's like, you are not in your right mind because you are not eating, you are not sleeping, your whole life has been upended. Like, she had a very happy life where she was just making what looked like gorgeous handmade furniture, and she had to give it all up so that she could have this fucking kid, which seems like she's not even certain she wants at this point. And then, it's like in a moment of disorientation because you haven't slept, you put your baby in the fridge.
Well, okay. So then let's bridge that then to the resolution for this movie, which everyone, we have a movie that ends with a new mother rejecting, maybe that sounds like too harsh of a word, but like rejecting her child and her husband and going off to find herself.
Yeah, she walks away from her life. Like, I thought that we were going to send her to some kind of wellness center.
Yeah.
There's every indication she could be going to meet Octavia up in the mountains, despite the fact that they had a spat earlier. But the end of the movie has Valeria packing her bags and just walking away from her husband and her child. And every indication is like, maybe she'll come back and maybe she won't. The movie isn't interested in telling us, but at this moment, she is saying no to this life.
And I expect this ending to be controversial because I think some people are going to really take issue with this decision.
How dare you?
This was a good for her ending for me.
I mean, everything in this movie is telling us that this is not a good fit for her.
No.
And psychologically, the movie has been telling us she's falling apart trying to keep this going.
But and again, like, granted, am I saying like, oh yeah, leave that baby? Like, no. Obviously, it sucks for that baby. Like, this baby now has is going to have abandonment issues for the rest of its life. And so it's really irresponsible on Valeria's part. But again, I think that's where the film's commentary on societal pressures, cultural pressures to be quote unquote normal and the things she will do to fit into normality come into play here. And I think if you're any kind of minority, be it Mexican, be it a queer person, be it a woman, I think you'll find some understanding in this decision.
Yeah. I mean, this movie, I think, is very critical of the way that other people talk about parenting and how we all have an idealized version of what motherhood and being a parent is. Like the moment that Valeria goes to babysit for her older sister's kids, and they're absolute fucking monsters. And then she thinks that someone is breaking into the house. So she drags them upstairs and locks them in a room. And then her sister flips her shit on Valeria because she's like, look at what you did to my daughter. And the boy has a sprained ankle. And Valeria's like, I thought that they were in danger. And her sister has no respect, doesn't feel bad about yelling at her at all. And you're just like, you're a bad parent. Your kids are shit.
Yeah, her kids suck. Like, see, I'm shocked she didn't slap that little boy. Like, I would have thrown him across the room.
Like, good for you moments. Good for her moments. I wanted her to, like, smack some shit into these kids.
I know. But yes, I mean, that's where we end this movie. And again, like, while I am mildly positive on it's a 3 out of 5 for me because I didn't like fully connect with this emotionally, while at the same time liking everything I was seeing, and this ending really sealed the deal for me. Like, you just don't see something like this in mainstream cinema, so I'm happy we got this out of a Shudder release.
Yeah I'm in agreement with you. You know, I think it's really well done. I think this actress, this director are ones to keep an eye out for. I feel like we say that about a lot of first-time features. And
but we're having a lot of them.
Because people are doing really good shit on their first go.
Well, and we're getting so many more first-time features from new directors doing their own thing. And I mean, shit, yay horror, everybody, again.
Yeah, it's one of the few genres that allows people to do an interesting creative project that feels intimate, but is also being like distributed on a broad platform.
Yeah. But yeah, that is Huesera, the Boned Woman, everybody. So this is on VOD now, but if you can't catch it now, it will be on Shudder later this year. So yeah, keep an eye out for it. But until then, we can cross out Huesera, the Boned Woman.
Indeed, and cross out micro queers. We're gonna figure out.
Yeah,
we'll
figure it out.
But yeah. For now, cross this out.
Atlas Avenue. A long stretch of road that encompasses everything the city of Kennett Heights has to offer. Neon lights, traffic, crime, the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and the craziest of characters. My office was above it all. My name is James Locke, and I'm a PI.
Hello, Mr. J. How the hell you doing today?
Good, Edith. Nearly every year I have a new case. New people to meet, new clues to discover, and new problems to solve. But I do it the old-fashioned way. No technology. Nothing post-1950. Hell, I don't even listen to podcasts, but you should. Atlas Avenue Beat is a spoof of the film noir genre with goofy characters, tons of wordplay, and non-stop raunchy humor. There's also 3 whole seasons out right now with more on the way. Just search for Atlas Avenue Beat wherever you listen to podcasts or visit us online at bloody.fm.